Okay, so welcome back here with Invisible London Tours. We're going to be in Waterloo and check out the area here before we go down to Lambeth North. Now, our first little thing is the Victory Arch, which is the main entrance here to Waterloo Station, which is the biggest railway station in all of the UK. This here is meant to be in honor of the victory that was achieved in World War I. It was finished in 1922, and there's actually reliefs inside that you'll see in a minute here of people who served in World War I and people who served in World War II. Now, the World War II relief and memorial is currently covered up, unfortunately, by scaffolding, but you can see the World War I at the moment, and it's people who served in the World Wars, but who also worked for the railway company here. Right, so there's one more thing before we leave. You see the figure of Britannia up there. She is a bit of a mythological figure of the British Empire. So the idea was they took the iconography of Athena, but then added a torch with her. So she's got a torch in one hand, as you can see, and the trident of Neptune. So she's a bit of more of a modern invention to symbolize naval dominance and the torch of progress, the torch of science and knowledge. So she represents both things. And of course, Athena is a tactical goddess, a goddess of war and tactics. So that's pretty appropriate as well. But if you look up at old buildings here in London, you will find her actually on top of a surprising amount of buildings. So you can try and see how many you can catch. So, we are in the Banksy Tunnel here, or the actual name is Leek Street, but it's been named after Banksy because in 2008 he hosted the Cannes Festival, which was a bit of a secretive festival where he invited in other graffiti artists and street artists from across the world. And the location was being kept hidden until the last moment when they decided to use this old, filthy tunnel going right below Waterloo Station, so you can hear the trains up above. It used to be a garage for bus companies here, but then it was, with the Cannes Festival, taken over by the street artists. And ever since that festival, it has just been made legal to make your own street art here. So it's the only place in the UK where graffiti is actually tolerated. And in a way, you could say it's a smart move of the borough to try and concentrate all the graffiti here, even though it doesn't always work. But this is a place where, yeah, street art is encouraged. You got many art students that come and show up and try and apply their own craft, and you've got clear differences in skill level. Some people, they just come here to tag as well. It's pretty, as far as I understand, it's pretty anarchistic the way that they organize things here. So you could basically just show up, erase a piece of art and put up your own piece of art. Although I suspect there might be a secret Telegraph group or WhatsApp group, who knows. I'm not in with the street artists here yet. Alright, so here we are in front of the County Hall, which used to be the local government for London, but that is certainly a thing of the past. So you can see we've been up looking at the blue plaque there. There's a date for the LCC and then the GLC. So the LCC goes back to 1889, where London was administered from one place and had like one central administrative body. And eventually that was turned into the Greater London Council. But interestingly enough, it saw its end when it fell afoul of the Conservative government in the 80s against Margaret Thatcher, because Ken Livingstone kept antagonizing the Prime Minister. As well as one example was they put a huge banner showing unemployment figures on the side of their building. And they were more left-leaning, certainly, than the government, right across from the river here of the government as well. So in the end, an act was voted for to get rid of the Greater London Council. And so they did in 1985, and split London into 32 smaller boroughs. So that's why it's now divided up into all these local councils today, instead of being run from one place. One of the arguments was as well that it was way too cumbersome and it was too, too slow of a body to work towards handling all of London. So there was a logical argument of dividing London up into smaller councils that, in theory, should be able to manage smaller areas better. But nowadays it's mostly being converted into hotels, it's restaurants, it's a bunch of venues as well. The London Dungeon is in there too. So it's all aimed at tourism these days, as many things get turned into. The London Eye, once called the Millennium Wheel. It's right next to Waterloo Station where we started off. But it was called the Millennium Wheel when it was fashioned at the turn of the millennium. It's there to celebrate year 2000. But it was fashioned in pieces in Amsterdam. Then they shipped it all the way up here, each bit separately. And then they put it together here on the south bank of the Thames. Now, it's been around since as a permanent attraction, but it was only because a petition was signed to keep it permanent. It was actually meant to be temporary. So they decided to keep it here and renamed it the London Eye. Interestingly, I've just mentioned the LCC, the London County Council, which used to be just around the corner down there. You see these pods, there's 32 of them in total. And they actually each represent the 32 local councils and boroughs that make up London today. So in that way, it's symbolic of a relationship with the county hall off to the side here. They skipped the number 13 because that's obviously an unlucky number. So it goes from 1 to 33, and mysteriously number 13 doesn't seem to be there. Now, it goes very slowly around. It takes about 30 minutes to make a full circuit. You can step aboard while it's going. But they say there's a tradition of proposing at the top of the eye. So young couples will sneak in with a ring, maybe with a bottle of champagne, and ask the big question up there with a bit of a random audience. However, there have been a few unfortunate souls who were rejected, and where the answer was no. And I don't know if you can imagine what it's like to be stuck together for 15 more minutes until you get down. You can't even jump out of the pod, even if you might want to. A running gag around here is as well that when they get up to the top, people tend to say that you get up there, you ask the big question, and it's all downhill from there. But of course, just 15 minutes of downhill, right? I don't know what you were thinking. St. Thomas's Hospital now. Right across you can see Houses of Parliament over there. Interestingly enough, this hospital has been connected to Parliament for a while. At least whenever MPs get sick, they tend to go into this hospital. Which is one of the latest examples we've had is Boris Johnson was treated for COVID inside the doors of St. Thomas's Hospital here, where he had a brush with death and probably started taking COVID a lot more seriously after he felt it on his own body. But apparently, and here's a weird fact about some of the laws of Parliament, there's apparently a law that still pertains to Parliament, which states that if you die in Parliament, that is actually illegal. You are not supposed to die in Parliament. So therefore, anyone who is about to die, quickly brought over here to do their business instead. Now, you might wonder, why is that? Why would they make a law about this here? My best theory is that because of another law that states that should you die in Parliament, you're owed a state funeral, the likes of which Churchill got and Lord Nelson and so on. A very costly affair. The government doesn't want to pay for your funeral. So to keep abusing people from, to keep people from abusing the first law, I think they put in the second law. We are here at the front of Lambeth Palace. This will be the main entrance. One can only wonder who these guests are that are stepping in. Might be people that come to visit the palace for a little garden party. There's certainly a garden party at this moment. There has been in Buckingham Palace, where the Duke of Edinburgh has been handing out awards to young people. I wonder if something similar is going on here by the looks of the guests. Who knows? But there is a little interesting thing here. There's a fig tree inside this tower that, as the doorman liked to tell me, is older than America. So it's almost 400 years old, this old fig tree that has been growing inside it and reaching up well to the first floor there, I believe. And over here we've got a parish church, St. Mary's. It was scheduled to be demolished, I think it was 1986, but might want to double check that fact there. They were preparing to demolish it. But in order to save the church, they actually turned it into a museum and turned it into a garden museum focused on botany and famous botanists. And you can see there's a bit of a garden here that's meant to mimic some of the, or show some of the plants that would have grown here back when it was more agricultural here and it wasn't much of a city. So if you turn back time to the 1600s, you would have had mostly fields here and maybe one church, Lambeth Palace. And instead of a bridge, instead of Lambeth Bridge, you'd have this horse-drawn ferry that could take people across to the other side. So all of that you can learn about in here, in this museum. They'll tell you a little bit of local history in the area, which is quite interesting. But that is almost where we're going to finish it. I'm going to leave you with one last little teaser here. Two things, actually. See those little pineapples up there? Yeah, that's a show of wealth, of status, back from the day when a pineapple was worth about £1,000 and people could show off at the dining table if they could afford to have a pineapple there. So it's become a symbol of status and wealth. And that's why you might find weird pineapples on top of little plinths and pylons like that. And of course, down there, on the other side of Lambeth Bridge, we've got MI5. Which has got as many floors above ground as below ground. So you can only imagine the amount of floors, how deep it actually sticks below ground. But that is as far as we're going to get today. Until I see you next time. Remember to like and subscribe.